Now, to start off, your time at Washington State was very good. You averaged about, you were a 10 and 10 type of guy there. You went drafted in the fourth round, 73rd overall. Did you feel like you had to kind of prove yourself in the NBA after being drafted that late?
Oh, yeah, definitely. And plus, I was drafted by the then world champion Seattle Supersonics. So they were already the best team in the league and no weaknesses, really. So I actually elected to go overseas my first year and play in Italy for my first year. And there I got a chance to play, all game, every game, get a lot better at my game, and came back much more improved to be able to make the Sonic team the next year.
And you played against some great centers during your time in the NBA. Do you have a player that you think was the toughest to guard?
Well, I break it down into two different categories. The most unstoppable, not necessarily the toughest, but the most unstoppable was Kareem Abdul-Jabar. Absolutely couldn't do anything with that sky hook, and he would just sky hook you to death over and over and over. So he was the most unstoppable. Now, the toughest to guard for me was Moses Malone. Rugged, a little bit smaller than me, quick, fast, boundless energy, and he can just go all day, get rebounds, score, block shots. He did everything, and just was so difficult for me to guard. After him came a new, improved version of Moses Malone, Hakeem Olajuwon. So those were the three very guys for me to guard.
And you obviously were an all-star. What was it like getting that honor?
Wow, that's the epitome of being the very best of the very best. I mean, the NBA players are already the best players in the world. And each team had great superstar players when I was playing, especially. And then to be on the same team on the Western Conference with the top 12 players of the Western Conference, and I'm one of them, going against the top 12 players of the Eastern Conference, 24 players, and we are the best of the best of the best, at least for that weekend. It was just an incredible achievement. I never played the game for individual accomplishments, but if I have to point to one individual accomplishment, that'll be it.
And during your time with the Mavericks, you made some deep playoff runs. And the year you were an All-Star, you made it all the way to the conference finals where you lost in 7 to the Lakers. That year, how do teams really handle playoff series losses like that when it's so close?
Well, we were kind of a young team still, going against the Showtime Lakers, who were a little bit older team, especially with Kareem and those kind of great players. But they had been there before. We had never been there before, or anyway. Being a young team, we thought we'd naturally be back next year, the year after, over and over and over. But it doesn't happen that way. So many things that can go wrong in the course of a season or even in the course of a playoff series. 3 games, 5 games, 7 games, whatever it is. It doesn't take much to turn the tide. That was the lesson that we learned in 1988. We got all the way to the 7th game of the Western Conference Finals, ended up losing it pretty badly, actually. Then we started having some internal problems on our team the next year with great players like Mark Aguirre, Roy Tarpley. It was just tough to keep it all together and keep it going.
And during your career, you racked up a lot of rebounds and you were very efficient. What do you think was the best part of your game during your playing career?
Well, I love doing the dirty work. We always had these cute little guards out there, Harper and Blackman and those guys, dancing around, shooting the ball from 3 and all those things. But my game and my job and what I really enjoyed was being on the inside. down in the trenches every night, rolling up my sleeves, putting on my hard hat, banging against some of the great big players of the time, getting rebounds, blocking shots. That was always, what I really enjoyed doing. Getting a double-double was always something I did every single night. And so I was able to get quite a few of those. Playing against, like you said, some of the best centers the NBA has ever seen. I came into the league playing against Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and when I exited the league, I was playing against Shaquille O'Neal. So, and all those great players in between. So that was my career.
And obviously, you're very efficient in career. You're 91st all time in offensive rebounds, 56th all time in defensive rebounds, 86th all time in total, 55th all time in blocks. What is it like to have so many different numbers on those all time lists?
Well, it just shows that, the job was well done. I played hard every night. I don't believe in time management and taking time off, taking days and games off like they do now. Back then we played, and we played hurt, we played injured, we played when we were tired. We played back to back to back, 3 nights in a row sometimes, traveling across the country. So the game was different then, but the guys who played the game, I'm talking about the Michael Jordans, the Larry Birds, the Kareems, the Magics. They played because they loved to play, and they were also just nothing could stop them. You had to tie them down to their hotel bed to keep them out of a game back then. And so that was wonderful. And so, over 14 years, I compiled a lot of good points and rebounds and blocks, those kind of things. I think I'm most proud of my field goal percentage. One year I led the league in field goal percentage, and because I was always effective down low to the basket, dunking the ball, hooking the ball in, whatever I was doing.
Yeah, and your efficiency was great. You're 7th all time in true shooting percentage, 17th all time in effective field goal percentage. Great numbers there. So you obviously had to guard a lot of very tough centers like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Moses Malone. But do you have a player who you think was the best ever?
The best ever. Well, I give the best ever title, the GOAT, the greatest of all time, to Michael Jordan. I didn't guard Michael one-on-one per se. I picked him up a lot of times as he's driving to the basket or coming across the lane. I had to go pick him up, but I didn't have to guard him on the perimeter. That would have been a nightmare. But Michael came into the league as a great, great individual player, putting up impressive statistics, showing the world how great he was as an individual one-on-one player. But he started getting better after finally getting by the hated Boston Celtics and the hated Detroit Bad Boys from Detroit Pistons. He finally got by them. He turned into a magnificent player individually, but also team-wise. He made his teammates so much better. And that's when they won 6 championships.
And now you are an author, and you recently released your book celebrating your gift of life from the verge of suicide to the life of purpose and joy. Can you speak a little on your experiences in the past with depression and why it made you kind of choose this career after your path from the NBA?
Well, I think like most people, we just assume that life is going to be easy and you're just going to coast through it without any big major hurdles or obstacles. But I think we all run into a hurdle or an obstacle at some point in life that we have to be able to deal with. My situation came about because I had a series of life events, one after another, that just became overwhelming and almost too much for me. I had 4 major surgeries in 5 years, 3 of them on my heart, 1 of them on my right lung, and I can no longer run and jump and do those things like I used to do. So, I'm reduced to just walking around the neighborhood with my dog now and going to the gym and pedaling on my bicycle. And that's about it. That's a long way from being an NBA player. And then, after that, my My mother passed away. A few months later, my wife walked out on our marriage and took her little boy with her, my stepson, for 5 years. I started running into financial issues with my business. I had a long running business of physical therapy and sports rehab, and started running into financial problems. I threw all of my life savings, NBA savings, into trying to save my business and wasn't able to save it at the end. This all began this downward spiral into anxiety and depression and suicidal ideations. 2018 was 12 months of just pure hell, pure darkness, no hope, and trying to figure out how I'm going to make it through this. I luckily recognized something was seriously wrong with me, and I reached out to my medical doctor, and he prescribed prescription medication. He gave me a behavioral health counselor to see as often as I needed to. And I also pulled together a small group of friends, good close friends who had known me for 30 or 40 years. They knew me when I was way on top of everything, and then they saw me when I was way down at the bottom. And these were guys like my old coaches, Coach Lenny Wilkins from the Seattle Supersonics, and Coach George Raveling over at Washington State University. These guys had known me for 40 years since I was in high school. And they really helped me get through this stuff, calling me, checking in on me from time to time, making sure I was okay. So it took 12 months to get through this darkness. And this is what I write my book about. And it's something I'm very proud of, because I've been able to put my book into a story form and also offer everybody who reads it successful tips and strategies on how to work through mental health challenges like I had to work through it. I'm just so glad I'm still here, because there was a time that I was ready to throw it all away. And it was tough. You think going up against Moses or Kareem is tough. It's nothing like what I went through with mental health. And so right now there are tens of millions of people going through mental health challenges because of the pandemic and our economic shutdown and stay-at-home orders and things. They are all suffering from mental health. So we just need to be aware of that, cognizant, and be able to provide them with the help they need as they're working through it. And also, reading my book will be helpful too. So make sure you tout it for me.
Yeah. And it is very important to talk about these issues, especially today, because in the past it's not really talked about. And now you have professional athletes such as yourself, Kevin Love, DeMar DeRozan, speaking out about these issues and bringing more light to them, just letting people know that they're not alone with everything that's going on. And especially now with the pandemic, it is super important to just kind of know that you have people out there who maybe have the same experience as you, similar, feel the same way, and everyone can just kind of help each other get through it and, get help, sort of. And your book does a great way at just kind of telling your story while letting people know that they're not alone.
That's
and
good. And
but
of it, Nash, is to let people know they're not alone. And the problem with mental health challenges is you feel like you're all alone. You feel like there's no hope, there's no tomorrow, no light in the tunnel. That's exactly how you feel. But I'm trying to reach into that darkness of theirs and let them know they're not alone. Help is available and readily available for everyone.
And during your playing career, what was like some of the toughest challenges off the court, just as an NBA player?
Well, you always have to be aware of people who want to, I guess, be your friends. Friends come out of the woodwork when you're an NBA player, and a lot of them don't mean you any good. They may take you down a path that you don't want to go down or don't need to go down. So you have to be careful of, who your real friends are. And that's hard to do when you're a young person, 22, 23, 25 years old. The world is at your fingertips. You got $100 million guaranteed contract. What can go wrong? Well, a lot of things can go wrong. So my advice to our young players now is to just make sure you have a good mentor in your life, someone who's been there and done that. I'm trying to work now with the NBA Players Association, the current players, and to let them know that, hey, if they have a mental health issue, call me. You can talk to me. I've been there. I've been where they are. I was a professional athlete, professional NBA player. Now I'm on the other side of that in retirement, but they may go through the same things one day. So I want them to call me and we can talk about it, and I can be a mentor, role model for them to get through it.
And during your career, you were traded by some teams. What is your mindset when you get like traded? What is a player's mindset? Is it usually like pretty shocking, or do they like let you know beforehand and give you some time to like prepare for it?
No, it is pretty shocking. The first time I got traded, when I left the Seattle Supersonics by trade down to the San Diego Clippers, I really felt betrayed. The Sonics told me I'd be with them a long time. I played my first 3 years with the Sonics, and I really loved Seattle. I still live in Seattle, and it just one of the things where, excuse me here. Okay, we're there. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was one of those things where I really felt betrayed by the management, by the coaches. Lenny Wilkins was my coach then, even. And I almost wanted to quit. I wanted to quit basketball at that point. I was only 24 years old. But because I just didn't feel appreciated, I felt lied to and betrayed. I didn't want to go to San Diego. The San Diego coach had to fly up to Seattle to visit with me, sit in my living room, and convince me to let the trade go through so I can go play in San Diego. So I did reluctantly. And then, San Diego was San Diego back then, and LA Clipper kind of stuff, the history, always terrible. After 3 years with the Clippers, I was traded to the Dallas Mavericks. Now, I was excited about this trade. This was a great trade for me because the Mavericks were always known as kind of a donut hole team, nothing in the middle. They needed a big guy in the middle, and I was going to fit that role. And so I fit perfectly with the Mavericks, and that's where my NBA career really hit the highest of it all. As an all-star, I have a great contending team year after year. So it just depends. I think we realize early in professional sports we are a commodity. We can be bought, sold, traded on any given moment, and we really don't have much to say about it. So you have to accept that as part of the business, and then be able to deal with that.
And you played many seasons with the Mavericks. You played a lot during your career, and you in 1992 were traded from the Mavericks to the Knicks. Now you say your game really blossomed with the Mavericks. So what was it like being traded from the team where you kind of found your game and then getting traded from there? What was your mindset after that?
Well, I think in 1989, I suffered a real serious knee injury down at the Houston Summit. The Rockets used to play out of the Summit, playing against the Twin Towers, Ralph Sampson and Keem Olajuwon. Ruptured patella tendon. I was out for about 8 months or so. When I came back, I wasn't quite the same player anymore. I was a little bit older. I had my knee was repaired, so it wasn't quite as explosive as it used to be. So I was kind of on the downward side of my career by the time I got traded to the Knicks. And I kind of realized that. I was going to join Pat Riley and his group with the Knicks, Patrick Ewing, Charles Oakley, Anthony Mason, John Starks, all these great players. And so I kind of accepted the fact I would be a backup role player, which I was. I only played about a half a year with the Knicks, and that was fine. We made it to the Eastern Conference Finals. We lost in 7 games to Michael Jordan and the Bulls. But that was a great run and great ride with the Knicks.
And towards the end of your career, you signed a contract with the Jazz. When you signed that contract with the Jazz, did you kind of have a feeling that it would be your last?
Yes, even though I didn't want it to be, but I had to realize that I just wasn't the player I used to be. I had played, 10, 12 years in the league. Went overseas and played after my stay with the Knicks. I played in Greece and also in Spain. And then came back and played with the Jazz for a little bit. So, at some point you have to realize that you're just not the same player at 35 that you were at 25. And that was fine. But the Jazz organization was great. Jerry Sloan was our coach. Larry Miller was the owner. Great. Probably my two most favorite teammates ever, Stockton and Malone. Those two guys worked so hard and so well together. They led by example. There wasn't a lot of showboating. Just you played hard, you worked hard, you executed your plays. It's a shame they've never won the championship quite yet, but this year they might have a chance to. Who knows?
Yeah, the Jazz have been very good this season. And do you think that you have a specific team that was your favorite to play with, or was it just kind of like wherever you were was just kind of your spot and you loved it no matter what?
No, I think my favorite to play with was with the Sonics. When I was just a young player coming in, those great Sonic players, championship players, all took me in and really helped me to become a professional. Lenny Wilkins was a perfect coach for me, but guys like John J.J. Johnson, downtown Freddie Brown, they took me under their wings. They showed me the ropes of how to be a really good NBA player, how to be a professional. I played with Jack Sikma and Gus Williams and Lonnie Shelton, great players that is a big reason why Seattle still remains my home, because I loved it so much here. I love the team so much. Now we're all working on trying to get a team back to Seattle one day. I hope that comes true in the next few years.
And being a former NBA player with the Seattle Supersonics, in 2008, when the Sonics moved to Oklahoma City and became the Thunder, what was your reaction to that move?
It was terrible. It just was a terrible, terrible situation. Um, we had the political environment at the time was just horrible. We coming out of the Great Recession, the United States went through 2006, 7, and 8, 9. There was just no money around to keep the team in town. Howard Schultz, the owner of Starbucks, sold the team to Clay Bennett out of Oklahoma City. And we sadly saw our Sonics leave after 42 years of being here in Seattle. Tough.
And the future was looking bright for Seattle at that time. Obviously, Kevin Durant was drafted and Russell Westbrook was drafted to the Sonics right before they moved. During that time, was it like a surprise that they got moved, especially with how bright that their future was with two young stars who both turned into MVPs?
Yeah, but it was purely economic and business reason why the Sonics left, not because of the potential the team had. The team was terrible on the court the last 2 or 3 years in Seattle, but those two young players, Kevin Durant especially, they showed promise, but there was nothing that we could do to keep them here in Seattle.
And there hasn't been many expansion teams in the last 20 years, really. So do you think that eventually a team will come to Seattle, especially soon, considering how big of a fan base there is there and how much everybody is pushing to get a team back in Seattle?
Yeah, I think probably in the next 5 years, we have a good shot of getting an expansion team. Commissioner Adam Silver has made it kind of clear that NBA is looking to expand. Going through this COVID impacted year of last year, a lot of teams were impacted financially. They might be looking to move and relocate. Seattle would be a fantastic place. We just rebuilt the old Key Arena to house an NHL hockey team, but it can actually house an NBA basketball team as well. So we're getting all the pieces in place, and hopefully that comes about, I think, in the next 5 years.
And when eventually, I don't think there's any doubt that a team eventually will come back to Seattle. But when a team eventually does, do you think that they will still be branded as the Supersonics, or do you think they might go a different route?
No, I think they will be the Sonics still. The city of Seattle still owns the rights to the name of the Seattle Supersonics. So no other team can be called Seattle Supersonics or the Sonics without Seattle being okay with that. So I think, and the fan base here would love the team still called the Seattle Supersonics.